Folks, I'm going to speak about vanishing equity, then get into the latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending April the 8th, 2026. If you want to speak directly with me about your real estate situation, there's two ways. You can go to tsre.ca. That'll take you to my calendar where you can book a time that's convenient for you. Or below this video in the description, there's a link taking you right to my calendar. Book a time that suits you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. We recently tried to buy a property. We were representing the buyer, tried to buy a property under power of sale. And there was a lot of activity in this neighborhood. Understanding market value for this property was pretty straightforward, I should say. And we went in with our offer, and the other side, the power of sale property, was listed high, and their counter offers back to us were always high, much higher than market value. And we tried to stay in with a price that made sense. We started off a bit on the low side, I gotta say, but eventually we came in line with market value. The other side wasn't having it though. And you gotta kind of ask yourself, the properties in power of sale, sure, they may try to get more, but and this property wasn't a new listing. It's been on the market before, and before we tried to buy, they have received other offers. You got to ask yourself, if a property is in power of sale, wouldn't the lender want to sell as quickly as possible to recover their loan on the property, especially in a declining market like we have now? What would be the advantage to listing it at a price and counter offering on a price that doesn't make any sense, that is actually causing you not to sell? Where's the logic in that? I've seen this before, and my experience with power of sales, when the power of sale, when the lender is one of the traditional lenders, one of the big banks, for example, they may try for a little bit higher, but eventually, in a relatively reasonable amount of time, they get a good handle on what market value is and will sell that property at market value regardless of how much is owed on that property. Now, the rules are clear. If there's equity left over, whatever's left over goes to the original homeowner. Well, when it's a private lender, same rules apply, but I guess the way they're interpreted is a little bit different. The lender has all the control. And what I've seen in the past is, if there's equity there, some of these private lenders, instead of taking that quick sale, will actually prolong the sale. It almost suits that private lender to not sell right away, because with every passing month, more mortgage payment is missed, more interest gets added to the loan, more fees and penalties get added to the outstanding loan. And it's not uncommon, eventually, when the property sells way down the road sometime, that there's an extra $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in interest, penalties, fees tacked onto, and all that does is just eat away at whatever equity was there. There's not usually, when a property is in power of sale, there's not hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but many times there's some. And it suits some of these private lenders to eat it up. And if you're that homeowner thinking, you know what, it's power of sale, unfortunately, but at least when it sells, I'll have a few bucks to restart my life. It's terrible. It's sad. But that equity is just gone. It vanishes. And there's nothing the homeowner can do about it. The goal would be not to get yourself in that situation to begin with. And I guess at the end of the day, I mean, it's unfortunate you're in that situation, but but be really careful. Some of these things happen out there. They happen to good people, and some of these private lenders will totally just, your equity will vanish. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. And if you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. Now, let's get into the numbers. Folks, here we go. We're going to get started with the City of Toronto. First, I want to show you what's happening with power of sales. Power of sales are way up. If we're looking at March, so the orange, that's current. The blue, that's the same month a year ago. For March that just passed, March 2026, there were 232 power of sale listings, new power of sale listings. The same month a year ago, 119. It's a huge jump, March last year versus March this year. And you can see, going back, each month is way more this year than last year. So let's just focus on the first quarter of every year, going back several years. So January, February, and March, I have it over here. For 2022, there was 58. January, February, March this year, 620. Previous year, 361. And then 202, 139, 58. See how quickly and how much it's actually grown. 2022, the first quarter, there were 58 power of sale listings. That's a 969% increase versus first quarter this year. That's just 1 year comparing to the current year. But if we just compare to last year, power of sales are up 72% first quarter this year versus first quarter a year ago. No question, power of sales are climbing. There's more and more of them. It's very common for me to see on a daily basis, depending on what my clients are interested in looking at, for listings in that area. Almost every day, I'm seeing a power of sale listing in the search areas my clients are looking at. That's power of sale. We're going to be focused on the City of Toronto, the freehold market. Detached semis and towns is really what we're looking at. I do have condo average sold prices here just to give a comparison. The difference between the average condo price and the average detached price, it's almost $1 million. It's $973,000. I'm showing that comparison because there's people thinking sometimes, yeah, I'm going to sell my condo and buy a detached. That's a tall order. It's depending on what you want to buy. And, obviously, which condo are you selling and which detached are you buying. But generally speaking, that's a $973,000 mountain you need to climb to be able to do that. We're going to start off with detached properties. This chart is broken down by week, the data for a whole year. So for week ending April the 8th, 121 detached properties were sold in the City of Toronto. 32 of those sold at $2 million or more. 121, are sales trending up, trending down? It's kind of tough to say. I think right now, and if we go back a couple months, sales are kind of flat. There was a time when they were trending up, but ever since, I guess, the end of February, they really haven't gone one way or the other. They're pretty flat. So 121 were sold. 32, we said, sold at $2 million or more. Well, 36 of those sold under $1 million. If we look at all the sales, 121. 36 sold under $1 million. And as far as the more pricey homes, yes, 32 sold at $2 million or more, but 15 sold between $3.1 million and $5.1 million. There were 15 properties in that price point. Average sold price is $1,576,000. kind of looks like prices are trending upwards. Still far lower than where we were this time a year ago, but trending upwards. 1,576,000 for the same week a year ago is actually 8% lower. The median price of 1,201,000 is 20% lower. 121 were sold. 34, so 28% sold at list price or more. The remaining 72% sold 6.8% below list price on average. That's almost $113,000 on average below list price. That's a huge percentage, or huge number. 113,000 almost basically is broken down between properties selling at $999 below list price to $545,000 below list price. So there's a huge range in there. I don't want people looking at this because it's happened already. People have called me and things. So by this data point, you're saying we should be offering $113,000 below list price? No, that's the average. Some sold almost at list price. Well, some 28% sold at list price or more. The others sold between $999,000 to $545,000 below list price. Depends on the property. Listings. Listings are trending up. So this is active listings, but listings also trending upwards. There's 1,984 detached properties available for sale. This time a year ago, there were 2,264. So we have fewer properties sitting unsold this year than last year. It's actually down 12%, 280 fewer listings. Scarcity has a way of maintaining prices, keeping prices a bit elevated. So the fewer properties that sit unsold, it's better for prices to stay up. If there's active listings climbing, like we're seeing now more and more, that's bringing prices down. Months of inventory sitting at 3.8. I believe months of inventory, not aggressively, but it kind of looks like to me that months of inventory is climbing. Looking at the whole city broken down into 9 different sections, I've got 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to start off with number 3. There's 341 active listings. So what I'm looking at are the areas with the most amount of detached properties for sale, unsold. Willowdale, Bayview Village area, so uptown, 341 active listings, only 6 sold last week. That's 1.8% of all active listings actually sold. I didn't say it earlier on the chart, but for the city of Toronto, there's 6.1% of the active listings actually sold. That's the whole city. Uptown, 1.8%, underperforming compared to the whole city. The middle here, Midtown, York Mills, Rosedale area, there's 415 active listings, 24 sold. So 5.8% of the available listings actually sold last week. Still lower than the Toronto as a whole average, underperforming. The highest active listings is in Scarborough. There's 441 active listings, 32 detached properties sold in Scarborough. In other words, 7.3% of the available listings actually sold. That's performing better than the whole city, which is at 6.1%. Let's look at 3 bedrooms versus 4 bedrooms. Looking at 3-bedroom properties, 50 sold. So sales were trending up. This week that we're in now, week ending April 8th, sales did drop. Average sold price is $1,268,000. That did come down from the previous week, but overall, I would say that average price is climbing. Of the 50, 7 sold at $2 million or more, And months of inventory for 3-bedroom detached property is 3.5 months of inventory. Compared to last year, 1,268,000 is 16% lower. Here's 4-bedroom properties. 41 were sold. I think sales is kind of flat. We've had many weeks in the 40s, then we dropped to 32, and then it's climbing again, but we're still only at 41 sales. Of those 41, 18, close to half, sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price climbed up from the previous week to $2,024,000. I would say that average price for 4 bedrooms is also climbing, but not as aggressively as 3 bedrooms. And months of inventory is 4.1. Compared to last year, $2,024,000 is 2% lower. When we compare the two, there's a $756,000 difference between a 3-bedroom price and a 4-bedroom average sold price. Let's look at semi-detached properties. Sales are all over the place. It's really difficult to kind of spot a trend here. 32 were sold. 8 of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,204,000. I would say that average sold price, I'm confident to say it looks like those prices are climbing slightly. Compared to last year, 1,204 is 5% lower. The median price is also 1,204,000, and that's 4% lower than the same week a year ago. Months of inventory looks like it's climbing. We're at 2.9 months of inventory. Here's freehold townhouses. Sales looks like they're trending down. Only 14 freehold townhomes were sold for week ending April the 8th. 1 sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,114,000. And for the last, say, 6 weeks or so, looks like average sold price trending downwards. Compared to last year, 1,114 is 29% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,213,000. So the median price is slightly higher than the, not slightly, quite a bit actually, higher than the average sold price. The median price is 22% lower than the same week a year ago. Months of inventory also looks like it's climbing. We're at 3.1 months of inventory now. When we look at all the months of inventory, detached as a whole is 3.8. 3 bedrooms is 3.5. 4 bedrooms is 4.1. 2.9, 3.1. In most cases, if you're selling or buying, you're going to experience a balanced market. For some, it's going to be some property types and price points kind of at the lower end of what we'd say is a balanced market. But overall, it's pretty much a balanced market. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.